Hello, hello. Wait, am I live? I'm not live yet. Now I'm live. Okay. Mm, hello. Before I think through this too much, I'm gonna go ahead and get this live stream over with because not too long ago I did a live stream about another creator, Dodash, in which I was talking about the challenges of parasocial relationships and how creators have a responsibility essentially to not take advantage of their audience, right? And I was talking about that particular creator because there were things that I found challenging and maybe less than transparent. By the way, my name is Alicia, and this is Slasher Chick TV, where we like to talk about growth mindset and negotiation strategy. So you never have to choose between this or that. You can always say yes to this slash that. And why I'm choosing to talk about this topic is I want people to say yes to being more discerning in the content that they consume. And I noted in the description that this is a challenge topic to talk about. This is not me talking about the dangers of hypergamy content or hypergamy creators. This is me talking about the dangers of people not truly listening to a creator when they speak so that you can use some discernment in order to take what you need and leave the rest. Now, the creator I'm talking about today, let me go ahead and share her channel, formerly known as the New Trophy Wife, and now known as Isis. And on the channel, she would talk about how to become a trophy wife, essentially. Now, let me just name, I have no interest in becoming a trophy wife. So her content is not content that, for the most part, would appeal to me, although femininity content does. Obviously, I like personal development content. So I could see how she might have come across my timeline in that way, but she's never come across my timeline until this happened with this particular video in which everyone is talking about this unfortunate story of the man that she did ultimately marry as a result of this hypergamy journey, ultimately has been assaulting their own children. And many creators have talked about how there was no people who were commenting about it, how there's no way she could have known that he would assault his own children. And I can't necessarily argue with that. It's not very likely that
Weeks ago.
one would assume someone's going to do that to their own children. But the part that I want to point out is, let me just see if I can get to it. In this story, where she tells about finding out, let me just add the screen. This is the video, and I Married a Monster, in which she talks about finding out that her husband had been assaulting their children. And I believe it's at, no, I don't watch Demon Slayer Weekly Slayer. I believe it's at point five, at the 5 minute and 28 second mark. Yes, here we go. So at this mark, which you can hardly see, but at 5 minutes and 26 seconds, it's noted here, where she says that he uh, R worded her 4 times within the first few months of their marriage. And I'm not saying that's a red flag that the person would necessarily assault their children, but it is a red flag that he is violent. And what's challenging to me is that knowing this early on in her marriage, she still continued to come online and create content around finding a protective and loving husband that other women were consuming when she knew in fact that was not what she had found. And that's scary. Um she had even more challenging to me is that she'd posted a video um called Boundaries, knowing when to leave. And let me see if I can find that video. I don't even know where it is right now. Oh, here it is. No, the big brain fighting the little brain, which is a whole nother. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna quickly look at this, and you can see then why the content is challenging. This is what she's delivering to her audience while she is currently in a domestic abuse and violent situation. And of course, now it freezes, so it's not loading. Um, all right, I got a little ad that, and that's actually even challenging to me too. But she's also monetized this video about the. Yep, I do know how to work a live stream. I just am struggling today. Um, but to then go monetize that video too. Now I get it. People have talked about, why is she talking about this publicly? You're naming your child as the victim. You're talking about their trauma. I do think that's important because that's how predators hide in plain sight when people don't choose to talk about it. So that I will commend her for. I will also commend her for believing her child immediately and choosing to end said relationship and go straight to the authorities. I will commend her for that as well. But when just months ago you were posting this.
Back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of always being willing to walk away.
You were posting that 10 minutes ago, but you weren't willing to walk away after being assaulted by your husband multiple times. What were you teaching women? Oh, that's what you were teaching women.
Being able to walk away is the number one mindset that a high value woman should have.
Now, and to be clear, that is the most powerful position in any negotiation. Okay, that's what makes you high value. The fact that you can walk away from it because you don't need it. That's always the person who's going to win in the negotiation. But to be
You
teaching,
have to be very clear about your boundaries, your standards, and what you are and are not willing to accept, and what's a deal breaker for you.
now to be teaching women about how to attract a man when you are not disclosing that being assaulted by them is not a deal breaker for you is disingenuous. It's not. It is downright dangerous. And I'm challenged by that because even if we'd never gotten to the point where her children were unfortunately assaulted, she was being assaulted and was still sharing this content as if she'd set boundaries and found a high value man. That is not. And so the other thing I just want to name that is why I'm saying this is not about her. This is not about the trauma that her children have experienced. This is about her audience because in her original video, when she talked about how she met this man, she started the story and shared how she did not have a place to live for her and her children and asked could they move in with him. Red flag number one, any woman that is teaching you about alleged hypergamy and is also saying that she left another man that she was living with without making sure that her and her children had safe uh, lodging before she chose to leave has no idea what hypergamy means whatsoever, has no concept of priorities, and you should stop listening to them. And so I'm only saying that when a creator is telling you one thing, just pay attention because if they're telling you something else that's contradictory, I'm not saying throw everything away. She probably provided lots of valuable um, advice in other areas, but she also did not tell the whole story. And so I just want to encourage audiences to be cautious in one, any creator that would, I mean, because there's other videos in which she very much talked down to women who weren't married, that if they were giving her any critical feedback, it was because they were unable to obtain the same things that she was able to obtain. No, ma'am. I don't want the things that you were able to obtain if that's the price that one has to pay. If it costs me my peace, it will always cost too much to have. But for the sake of this live stream, and so I can get this out of my system and get off, because I'm not even a commentary channel. This is not what I talk about. Okay. Um, but since I do like to talk about growth mindset and negotiation agreements, negotiation strategies, this is a great learning opportunity about one, having a growth mindset and knowing that your self love and self worth can be grown and developed. If you are not naturally born with it, you can create it. That's number one. And number two, yes, anyone in a negotiation, the one who has the most power to is the one who can walk away. And me, if the ultimate price for the thing that I'm asking you for is my peace, it will always cost too much and it's time to walk away. But what my whole point of this live is to remind viewers that when you are viewing content, it is okay to be critical of it in order to discern what's actually for me, what's actually the truth, and what is actually just a marketing ploy in order to sell me something. And sometimes what they are selling is just that story, is the narrative that they want you to believe. So you'll ultimately buy something else. Because I'm sure this woman sold coaching, there's no way she wasn't selling things other than just this story. But let me just go to the video I'm talking about to share with you what I mean, and then I'm gonna log off of here having completed my rant. But the name of the video is From Single Mom to Spoiled Housewife in Less Than a Year. Red flag number one. Okay. Now, why is that a red flag? Because how can you truly vet someone that you have known for less than a year? And you are only vetting them for dating just you, but you are vetting them for dating you and your children. Less than a year can't possibly be enough. It can't possibly be. Now, she goes on to say, not only that, she was living with two different men in less than a year. And so now you've subjected your children to two different men in less than a year. That's also a red flag on why I'm not going to be too keen on your advice. Or at least not take all of it, right? Because that's concerning.
To the new trophy wife and basically turned into a child raising a child. I, a few years
Now, often in these videos, I will name my bias, and I am sympathetic to the fact that she had her first children as a teenager. I am a product of teen parents, so I know that it is not easy. I am, however, a product of teen parents who took their responsibility seriously, and my mother never moved strange men into our home. I don't mean by strange men that her husband is a strange man to their children. I'm talking about she had previous children before she moved those previous children into homes with the ex-boyfriend and now the husband.
I'll go with the man that's going to be the best breeder. And I think society drilled into me to go after the thug, the street dude, the swag.
Okay. Also, red flag number one, when she was already saying that those were the types of men that she chose in the past. So she's already shared with you, I'm not very good at picking partners. And and she did not share with you anything she had done in between those past relationships in which she was clearly not good at picking partners and also was struggling with clearly her self-worth and self-esteem. There was no work done in between that. That's at least not that she shared. What she shared is she didn't have a place to live, so she asked this man, could her and her children stay there? So that should also be a yellow flag to you of like, hey, well, if you weren't good at picking partners before and you didn't have the highest self-esteem or self-worth, what did you do to change that before you picked this partner? Those are questions one should be asking when viewing this kind of content.
My second child, I was working hard. I was making really good money. I think I was
Let me add this back. Oh, because yeah, this was another part that I found.
thinking about maybe 90K at the time, which for
Really,
me
really
as a
challenging.
24-year-old woman was
Which as a 24-year woman with 2 children, you're making almost $100,000 a year, and it didn't dawn on you to make sure that you always continue to have a nest egg for you and your children to have a place to go should any of your relationships go sour?
good. I thought I was doing good. I had my own place, I owned my car. I was very self-sufficient, all about the mindset of, "Oh, I can do it by myself. I don't need a man," as so many of us
And I'm not saying that to shame her. I'm saying that if you are a viewer who is watching this, that to me is a question you should be asking yourself when she goes on
modern
to say
women
the rest of the story.
say, I can do it all by myself. And I soon realized after one Christmas of it just being me and my two boys that I wanted a family. I wanted more for myself. It felt so lonely and it was sad. It was really sad.
Okay. So, red flag number 2. She said she decided that she wanted a partner because it felt lonely. That implies desperation. You don't think predators can smell desperation? Because they absolutely can. She didn't say, I had done the work to heal my past trauma. I had done the work to be better at vetting men. And I felt now I was ready to have a relationship. And I had discussed it with my children, and they were open to it too. I'm not saying that she needed to discuss it with her children if she were going to date, because you don't have to date and bring those people around your children. But again, I'm just naming that these were red flags in just this story, that if you were a viewer who were watching her, should say to yourself, I'm not sure how much of this person's advice I can take.
And it was, I'd say, one of the lowest points in my life. And I realized that I don't want to do this on my own. I don't
Because let me tell you, one of the lowest points in your life, that is not the time to start trying to date someone. That is absolutely not the time to go try to find a partner. That is never a time to go try to find a partner. You want to know why? Because water seeks its own level. So if you are at the lowest point you've ever been in your own life, what do you think you're going to attract? I don't care what package it comes to you in.
want to raise these boys on my own. I want a family. I want someone that I can love, someone that loves me and my children. And after that was when I decided that I was going to change the kind of men I was dating and what I was attracting. One of my sisters at the time had told me that I should create
All right. I paused. I forgot. I had to take some of
an
that
online
back.
profile, and I was so against doing
Didn't
that because I was like, well,
She did seek help. Her help was Shira 7. That was the help that she sought to change her vetting ability. Um, she never named anything about changing her self-worth or
well,
self-esteem.
online profiles are only for people that are desperate, and I look good. I'm not desperate. I don't need to, I can find a man just going out. And um, I was against it.
Just because you look good doesn't mean you're not desperate. That should also be a red flag to anyone who's viewing this. I can name other people who also look good that are desperate. Um, because we've seen it play out in other, say, celebrity couples. So that would have been another red flag for someone viewing this, that, okay, well, she just said, uh, I don't need to be on a dating
At
profile.
first.
I'm not
And
desperate. I look good. Looks have nothing to do with desperation.
I think I also had a skewed version of what a high value man was at the time as well. I thought
And I'm going to say that that skewed version obviously never changed.
that a good mate or the man to go after was the one with the super nice car and a stack of money and the jewels and the chains on with the swag. Like I thought that was the man that I should be going after, but that was definitely not the type of man that I should have been going after. And I learned quickly that just because someone looks like they have it together does not mean that they have it together. And typically, the things that that person is probably doing to get money is not sustainable and probably not something that you would want to be in.
Now, she just gave the main point of this entire life for me, is that for her as an influencer, teaching you how to find a high value man, just because someone looks like they have it all together does not mean that they have it all together. And that's why you should be very much paying attention to the things that they say, to fully understand the full story, not just the highlights that they want you to
Involved in.
see.
And after learning quickly that everything that glitters is not gold, I happened to come across Shira7 on YouTube, and she completely changed my life. And she basically taught me what a high value man is and what to look for when.
And I'm not saying that she didn't learn some things from She Was 7. I'm certain that she did. I'm also certain that She Was 7 didn't tell you that it's a safe idea to move your children into a house with a stranger after and then marrying him within a week. But maybe she would have. I don't watch She Was 7 as a like. I don't watch her long form content. I might occasionally catch some clips
Trying to find a husband.
of someone who has done a sprinkle snippet somewhere. Um, but I'm not I'm not regularly consuming Zero 7 content, so maybe she would say move in with someone at a certain time.
So I ended up taking my sister's advice and signing up for eHarmony. Yeah, she recommended match with was the man that I'm married to now, my husband. And it was
And I'm just gonna hurry up and see if I can switch to the part where she says, "I called him up and I was like, yeah, I don't have a place to live."
How old is this girl?
You know what? I'm actually just gonna stop right here. Um, because I think my point has been made. And I've gotten it out of my system. And that if you are an influencer, you have a responsibility to the audience that chooses to engage with you, and you have a responsibility to not knowingly lead them into peril. And when you know that what you are selling is in fact a bold-faced lie, then you have failed at that responsibility. And that's why this live isn't for the creator, it is about the audiences watching. That when you notice things that don't seem to add up, um, trust your instinct and trust but verify. Take what you need and leave the rest. There might be some value into advice that you were given, but ultimately, um, look for results, look for growth, look for opportunities to truly discern, is this content intended for me, and is it intended to actually educate me and help me grow, or is it intended just to entertain this person's pockets? And in fairness, I'm going to say maybe she didn't think she was leading her audience to peril. Maybe that's not what she thought was happening. Maybe she thought what she was willing to accept in order to have said lifestyle was what she deserved. And I hope that that's not true, because we all deserve to be loved and cared for. But most importantly, we all deserve to feel safe in our own home. And I hope that as everyone continues to talk about this, they continue to have um, sympathy, um, empathy where they actually can, and but continue to use this as a learning moment to be very discerning in what we consume, what value it brings to our lives, and to notice when there are contradictions and not feel that it's not hating to be critical of the content that you consume. It is called discernment, and it can potentially save your life. And most importantly, as I close, because part of the reason why people end up in these situations is because they don't feel loved and they don't feel like they are enough. But I can absolutely guarantee you, unequivocally, with doubt, that simply because of your mere existence, you are more than enough. And if no one else told you today, I love you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I always don't know how to end my stream. And by end it, I mean I don't know how to press the button. I'm pressing it now. Bye. I love you.